he'd gone. From beginning to end, he didn't know who his opponent was. Just as he was wondering, suddenly before his eyes a red light flashed and a person stood before him. Suspecting it was his enemy, just as he was about to act, that person suddenly said, "Worthy brother, don't be rude." Maurey fixed his eyes to look minus. It turned out to be his close friend Flying Sky Knight 14 Lane. He couldn't help but be greatly delighted and hurriedly stepped forward to greet him. Kai Langman asked Maurey why he was alone here. Maurey then told him about descending the mountain to seek Xu Chun for revenge, residing at Cian Temple, today coincidentally meeting Xu Chun, being deceived and hit by arrows, later releasing his own Crimson Yin sword to gain the upper hand, when suddenly someone in the dark released an immortal sword and rescued Xu Chun, cast when he couldn't resist. The sword-releasing person and Xu Chun disappeared in an instant. He recounted it all. Kai Lang said, "When I saw in this forest blue and yellow-colored sword lights fighting. I knew our school's people had encountered an opponent here and hurried down to help. Who knew they'd already escaped? I think they'd already seen it was me and knew they absolutely weren't a match, so they fled. Too bad I came one step late and let them escape." Kai Lang was originally the proud disciple of Huashan's fierce fire ancestor. Relying on his strong sword techniques, he committed every evil. The sword he practiced was called the Red Spider Sword, extremely formidable. At first he'd also taken Fayuan as master. Fierce Fire Ancestor was also Fayuan's introducer minus. He and Naotai were considered fellow apprentice brothers in the same school. The two were extremely close. Naotai, seeing that as soon as he arrived the blue light retreated, also believed the enemy feared Kai Lang. He thanked Kai Lang for his life-saving grace. Kai Lang said, "Currently I'm following Ancestor's command to guard it to gather medicine. Otherwise I'd have killed all those sword cultivators clean. Just now that person fled at the sight of me minus they can be considered to know their place." Just as he was boasting greatly, "Federally nearby they heard someone say, 'Kirain, stop being so shameless. People just let your worthless master's face.' Moreover, they can't be bothered to cross hands with the young junior generation. Yet you're so shameless and think yourself pleased." Kai Lang's nature was like fierce fire minus. How could he tolerate that person ridiculing him like this? He couldn't help but become greatly enraged and cursed. What junior generation dares to disturb the earth on Taisui's head? Why don't you roll out and accept death? Before the words were finished with a slap. Great slap landed right on his left cheek, striking Qin Lang until sparks flew directly. Just as he was about to turn in to meet the enemy, looking all around he didn't see that person's traces. In front of Mao Ai's face, both ashamed and anxious, he cursed, "Bastard thing, attacking people in the dark isn't heroic. If you have ability, come out and let me see who's superior." That person suddenly answered beside him, "Who attacked people in the dark? I'm right in front of you. You've vainly studied the Tao in the mountains for decades minus. Could it be you can't see?" Hearing this, Kai Lang became even more angry and hateful. He planned to answer that person while talking, listen carefully to determine the direction where that person stood, and use his flying sword to kill him. So he put on an unconcerned appearance and answered, "My eyesight is naturally poor. Since you have great ability, why not show your true form and compete with me to see who's superior?" That person said, "If you want to see me, it's not yet time. When the time comes, I'm afraid you'll want not to see me but won't be able to." By this time Kai Lang had calculated that person was only about 10 or more steps from his side. Before he finished speaking, unexpectedly, with a wave of his hand, 5 red thread-like sword lights flew straight to where that person was standing. At the same time, he maneuvered these sword lights to shoot up and down within a surrounding area of several dozen gen minus. The woods were illuminated completely red. Where the light went, forest trees and leaves flew together. After a long while that person didn't respond. Maurey said, "This strange person must already be dead. Senior brother, return to the temple with me. Before the words were finished, suddenly with another slap, Mao Dai's face also received a blow. Mao Dai, extremely angry and hateful, also released his sword light flying toward where that voice spoke. I only heard that person laugh heartily and say, I only thought your 5 mountain school sword techniques were formidable minus it turns out they're only so-so. If you don't mind the trouble, release however many swords you have and let me see them all. Qin Lang and Mao Dai, both angry and anxious, clearly knew that person's abilities were formidable and their own flying swords were useless. But both were too embarrassed to withdraw them, so they could only maneuver the sword lights to randomly shoot at that person. He wasn't willing to easily rest either minus by their sides, if not striking once, then pinching or grabbing, and moreover striking extremely heavily, beating the two in extreme pain. Later it was still Mao Dai who knew it was extremely difficult to meet the enemy. He quietly said to Qin Lang, we can handle clear blades and clear spears, but this thing minus who knows if it's human or monster? Why should we eat this immediate loss? Qin Lang had no choice but to use this to back down. Fearing they'd suffer other secret attacks, he told Mao Dai to tighten precautions. Each person maneuvered sword light to protect their bodies and escape the woods. Fortunately, that person didn't come chasing. The two ran to Soaring temple, already gasping for breath. After entering the temple, Mao Dai introduced Zia Chaitong. Zia Chaitong then asked why the two were so disheveled. Mao Dai explained what had happened. After listening for a long while, Zia Chaitong pondered silently. Mao Dai asked him what the reason was. Zia Chaitong said, just now in the forest, the person who first fought swords with you was perhaps an Emmy school sword cultivator passing by who saw injustice and helped Chu Chun. Later, seeing Taoist friend Qin arrive, fearing being seen through and forming enmity, and also fearing not being a match, therefore took Chu Chun and fled. This isn't important. Later, that strange person whose voice was heard, but for not seeing minus that's somewhat difficult to handle. If that old monster comes out to meddle, forget about people like you and me minus I'm afraid even our senior golden body, our Hatafeyu on undaoist friend Qin's honorable master Vosh and fierce fire ancestor would both feel it thorny. Qin and Mao answered where we released our swords, we didn't see him meet them. He only knows a dead invisibility technique minus how could it be formidable to this extent? Hey, Tom answered you to don't know minus 50 years ago. A strange old fellow suddenly appeared in Zhonghu who especially liked to meddle. Whether South or North Road sword cultivators, or various schools capable people and sword heroes minus, unless they were united with him, otherwise very few were defeated at his hands. That person not only achieved unity of body and sword, but also practiced so his body form could appear and disappear while minus, not ordinary invisibility technique that can only obstruct common people's eyes. At first people didn't know his name, because his traces were elusive and sword techniques formidable. They gave him a nickname calling him Chasing Cloud Elder. Later they found out his name was by Gai Ai. At that time Zhonghu people truly lost courage, hearing his name and forgot their souls seeing his shadow. 50 years ago, because his old companion Ling Zuhong passed away at Kaiyuan Temple, John, who hadn't seen his traces for a long time minus everyone said he died. Last year fierce fire ancestor returned to Huashan from Tibetan pastor here, saying he'd seen him selling medicine in Chengdu market, telling me to be careful. He also said he himself had once been defeated at his hands. As long as he lived one day, he himself would definitely not emerge to participate in any factional disputes. At first he only said he'd passed away minus who knew he was still in the mortal world. He could only practice his past words minus return to the mountain to close the door in quiet cultivation and not come out. So I strictly commanded disciples under my tutelage minus without cause they're not permitted to leave the temple and cause trouble. Later there was also no movement. A few days ago, worthy brother Mao's disciple Zhang Liang left the temple at midnight, saying he was going to a wealthy household at the city gate to borrow pocket money. He went and didn't return. Later I sent people to inquire at the Yamending that wealthy household minus there was no trace at all. He must have suffered that old thief's deadly hand minus others definitely couldn't do it so cleanly. Shen Liang was Mao Dai's newly accepted beloved disciple. Hearing such fierce news, he couldn't help but be both anxious and angry, and wanted to go to the city gate to investigate. Ghi Tong hurriedly dissuaded him, telling him not to act rashly. He said to Qin Lang, in my temple consecutive days have seen incidents minus the situation is very ominous. Taoist friend Qin shouldn't stay here long. Tomorrow you can set out for Tibet. This Kurman troubles you to make a detour to Dajianlu. Invite the Plague God Temple's abbot Pin-faced Buddha together with Flying Sky Knight for Maju to quickly come to Chengdu to help me. What does Taoist friend Qin think? Qin Lang said this time I'm following my master's command to Tibet minus originally. I was also going to Dajianlu to pay respects to Chen Master Zhuoyi. The Grand Master troubles me to go minus, it's precisely killing two birds with one stone. I'll set out tomorrow morning. Ghi Tong thanked Qin Lang, then had someone go summon the disciples under his tutelage minus the four Varas, as well as those who came to seek refuge during the day minus the great bandits of the Western Sich, one rode Flying Sky Centipede, many treasures real person Jin Guangding, single horn python mahjong water, parting rhinoceros Lu Hu, disturbing sea silver dragon by Jin, as well as all the heroes minus to come together to the great hall for consultation. After the message went out, first came the temples for Vara's mighty strength Vara Iron Palm Monk Huaming, invincible Vara rival Dharma Huaneng, many armed Vara Nez Ha Huishing many. I'd Vara Little Fire God Huishing minus these for arrived first. After that Jin Guangding and others came in to pay respects and sit down. Ghi Tong said, I've called you all here not for other reasons, only because originally my grand ancestor Tai, Yi mixed origin ancestor formed deep enmity with Emi School's sword immortals. At Emi Nam's Jade Maiden Peak they fought with swords and ancestor was cut off one arm by the Emi School's leader sword immortal. Xiang Kun righteous energy wondrous unity real person Ti Shu Ming. Ancestor couldn't contain his anger. Later he cultivated at Maoshan for 10 years and refined the 5 poisons immortal sword. He arranged with Emi School to compete sword the second time at Yellow Mountain Peak. The Emi School was about to lose when from thin air came the 3 immortals of the Eastern Sea minus one was Yuan Zhenzi. Second was ascetic monk. Third was that strange old fellow Chasen Cloud Elder by Gai. These 3 emerged from thin air to interfere with unfair mediation. When they started fighting, our grand ancestor's 5 poison sword was taken by ascetic monk, and he was also hit by Zhuangzhen's invisible sword. 7 days later he died. At the moment of death, he called before him several cowed disciples under his tutelage along with my master Tuo Grand Master, transmitted the sword refining method, and told us to perfect our sword techniques and seek revenge against Emi School people. My master later went astray in cultivation and passed away at that time. I came to Chengdu and painstakingly managed the Iron Temple for over 10 years to have today's prosperity. Only because I never do business here minus coming and going all at midnight minus, I can quite obtain the faith of local officials, people, gentry and merchants. Who knew half a month ago at night, worthy brother Mao's disciple Zhang Liang took a fancy to a woman in the city, went to pick flowers and borrow money. Went and didn't return. Inquiring everywhere, there was no news minus he must have suffered someone else's deadly hand. I was just anxious about this matter when a few days ago the temple also had a strange incident. Mao Tai, hearing this, hurriedly asked what strange incident occurred. Ghi Tong said, Worthy brother, you don't know minus this was also my moment of mercy that left this hidden danger. A few days ago I was in the joyful Buddha Hall, with all disciples there pursuing pleasure when suddenly I heard the secret door chime. At first I thought it was you returning. Who knew it was 17 provincial examination candidates from Guizhou going to the capital who made a detour to Chengdu for